Hi, this is Dr. Robert Bohannon. I want to talk to you in our step 4 on revitalizing America. We want to talk about the tax code and taxation. There's a lot of discussions about who pays the most taxes, what's the fair tax. Well, you'll see that between federal, state, local, sales taxes, you've got Social Security and Medicare taxes. These comprise up to 40 to 50% of people's income in your upper 100,000 plus incomes. You pay about 40 to 50% in taxes total. People argue a lot about tax rates. Who pays more? What's a fair tax? Who can afford to pay more? And the arguments go on. Here we're going to boil it down and make it simple to understand and hopefully outline a plan that is fair, equitable, and easy to administer. Between federal, state, local sales taxes, Social Security taxes, roughly a family of or incomes of $100,000 and up, you'll pay anywhere from 35 upwards to 50% of your income in taxes, directly or indirectly. About half of the population of the United States, working population, don't even pay federal income tax, which is amazing. Yet they end up using most of the services, whether it's unemployment, whether it's welfare, whether it's assistance, but about half of the population of the United States don't pay federal income tax. Yet they have the right to vote and tell those that do how much they should pay. So that may not be real equitable. So I'm going to outline a tax program or make a suggestion that would be what I consider a little bit more fair. But before I do that, let me give you 2 examples and just to talk about taxes in general. Let's say you have a person that makes $100,000 a year, and let's say that they pay 50% in taxes. So they're paying about $50,000 a year. A person that made $10,000 a year, if they were to pay 50%, would pay roughly $5,000. Now let's take another look. What happens if we have a 10% tax versus a 50% tax? If a person made $100,000, they would pay $10,000. If a person made $10,000, they would pay $1,000. Just to give you an example. When I was teaching an economics class, I actually got the life game, and I took the monies and I paid all the students. I said, okay, I'm the federal government, I'm hiring you, and you want to be a doctor and a lawyer and a scientist, and I'm going to pay you $100,000. And so I would deal out $100,000 of cash to them. And then I said, okay, we have a 50% tax, so you all exchange your money, and as soon as I pay you the $100,000, I get half back, 50%. And then I had the students circulate their money from one person to another, and every time they did it, I got 50% back. After about 5 or 6 times, they were virtually out of money. Then I said, let's compare that to a 10% tax. So I gave them all $100,000. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're architects, and I collected $10,000 back. Then they spent it, I collected $9,000 back. Then they spent it, I collected $8,000 back. And we went on and on and on, and it took about 20, 25 times before they were out of money, essentially. And I asked them, which way do you like it? 50% tax or a 10% tax? And they're all like, well, we like 10%. I said, why? They said, well, because we got to have the money longer. We got to buy more stuff. It circulated more. And I said, but you're missing a point. Who got all the money? They said, you did. I said, did I get it all at 50%? They said, yeah. Did I get it all at 10%? They said, yeah. And I said, so who gets all the money? They said, well, you do. I said, but which tax rate do you like better? And they all said 10%. So we're going to talk a little bit about a difference of philosophy. This will fly in the face of most Republicans and Democrats in that whatever the government spends between federal, state, and local government, almost all of it goes back to federal, state, and local. So if the Fed, say, spent $3 trillion and it circulates and circulates and circulates, it's taxed over and over and over. And the tax rate just determines how long, what that period of time is before virtually all of those funds are recovered in the form of taxes. And it's called the number of turns, how many times money changes hands and what the tax amount is. But they always get all the money every time, given sufficient time. And the higher the tax rate, the quicker they get the money back. So let's talk about a 5% national sales tax. And maybe it's divided 2.5% to the buyer, maybe 2.5% to the seller. And there's roughly $44 trillion in consumer spending. And if you take 5% of that, that's about $2.2 trillion in revenue. On top of this, let's say we collect 1/4% on all financial transactions, real estate, stock transactions, credit cards, etc. There's roughly $500 trillion traded in real estate and stocks. And if you take a quarter of that, it's about $1.25 trillion. And if you take the 1/4% of all credit cards expenditures, all financial transactions, checking account, etc., that's about another $0.5 trillion. So between all of these, this simple plan would generate about $3.9 trillion in revenue for the federal government. Interestingly, that is our current budget. So you're looking at a 5% national sales tax, and now everybody is taxed equally. If you're a billionaire like Trump, you'd be paying $50 million in tax, plus your 0.25% on top of that. If you're a person that makes $100,000 a year, you're paying $5,000. If you spend $1,000 a year, you're paying $50. But everybody participates. Then you don't have, everybody's got skin in the game. You don't have those that are not paying tax telling those that are paying tax what to pay. That would eliminate the IRS. You wouldn't need unemployment. You wouldn't need Social Security. That includes the entire federal expenditures. Remember, the guy that's making $1 billion doesn't use any more social services or national security than the guy that's maybe making $10,000. And actually, if you're making a low amount, you probably will need some of those services. So that makes it a more fair tax. Those that are undocumented, again, will be paying tax because it's a national sales tax. It's a consumption tax, if you will. Those that are trafficking in drugs, for example, billions of dollars of drugs, when they buy their cars and they buy their homes and they buy their clothing, they'll be paying tax as well. So it brings it all the way across the board, helps balance the budget. If you're interested in learning more or want to give me feedback, please give me an email, drbob@americanomics.info. Thank you.